where I like to start is, I mean, a big reason we're all here at this event is because there's a need we know, a pain that we need to create a more engaging, more human workplace. But it's hard. And so with your work, as you look out at clients or in the market, what do you see as the biggest challenge right now to engaging employees?
Well, I think that the biggest challenge in engaging employees today, Jason, is focus. I see that we have thousands of different ways to try to, quote unquote, engage our workforce. And the way that HR is structured in a world of centers of excellence.
Right.
So, hey, let's have our recruiters try to engage people at the front end. And then let's have the people that are responsible for performance management focus on engagement.
Right.
And let's think about how does learning engage, and let's think how compensation engages. And when we do that, it dilutes our overall focus because people don't know where we want that one kind of area. And I think that overall organizations need to take a step back and say, for our specific organization, not a huge conference like this, but for us and where we're at today, what are the things that are going to move that needle and focus and go in hard on that based on the business strategy, not based on what HR thinks, but truly based on that organization's business strategy.
So if I'm an HR leader and I hear that, what's my next step? What's my first step? Like, how do you start to create that?
Yeah, the first step for me is to think about where's the workforce pain, and not to take a peanut butter spread comment like it's engagement.
Right.
And we have to focus on engagement, but truly get to the point of understanding where the quote unquote lack of engagement is, if that's the quote unquote issue.
Right.
And to do that, as you know, requires some form of measurement.
Right.
Some sort of sentiment analysis as to how people are feeling at the moment, and then a prescription as to how to take them to that holy land of quote unquote engaged workforce per se. But a lot of people will just say, hey, we have an engagement problem.
Right.
Throw that out there,
and
everyone starts scurrying, and I believe that scurrying causes more confusion than it actually does organizations well.
What do you think right now, when they're saying like we have an engagement problem? What do you think what is they're obviously they have a problem. It may not be engaged. What do you think it is that's underneath that? So
in most cases, in my personal opinion, it's leadership. And the fact that our leaders today don't know how to lead. They don't get taught by organizations. Organizations don't do leadership training anymore.
Right.
That's a blanket statement, and for those that do, apologies.
Right.
But overall, people are brought into organizations and expected to figure it out.
Right.
Figure out how to be a great people leader or a great human leader, and it's a really hard thing to do.
It is.
As I continue to, I won't say we, as I continue to get older, I learn every day how to be a better leader by trial and error.
Yeah.
It's not there's books you can read, but you learn through trial and error.
Yeah.
But to have the workforce that we have today, which is spread out of these 5 generations, and to think about how do you figure out how to lead 5 generations of people, it's hard.
And it seems like it's getting harder.
It will continue to get harder, and it's. I'm torn about saying this. It's partly an HR issue.
Right.
I think for HR to take it on by itself and say, guys, we're going to fix this engagement problem, I think that's wrong.
Yeah.
I think there has to be a partnership there with the business, and I think for HR to say there's an engagement issue and kind of create that fake news story, if I could use an overused cliche today, is dangerous.
Yeah. Well, and I think
it's in pockets.
It's pockets, and I think the other issue is that we're using this, and this is, I think, the part that HR has to claim responsibility for, is that HR has been the one that has taken engagement and made it to be a catch-all. Like, they're not defining what engagement means in their organization. So when we say engagement, here's what we're talking about. So it'll be interesting to see if we find greater clarity, whether that's by defining engagement or like just using different words to better describe the problem we're trying to solve.
Well, and I think that we are all learning as we continue to shift from a manufacturing world to a knowledge-based world.
Right.
what that lever and what that needle means of engagement. So how do we want a fully engaged workforce? And what I find oftentimes, both around engagement as well as the other levers of talent management, is that people don't have a talent strategy.
No.
So, do I want to build an engaged workforce? I mean, it sounds cool,
right?
But what if my mission in life is to go into Asia, and completely move into a new market? I don't really want an engaged. I don't want to build an engaged workforce in a specific, in the U.S.
Right.
So what's my business strategy? What's my talent strategy? And then how do I attack that? Is key. Versus just like, let's dive in an engagement and create an engaged workforce when it may not even be what the business needs.
Right. Interesting. Yeah, no, I think that's good. So I think that's important too, like starting with strategy or business context, or really stepping back and thinking about why you are doing what you're doing is critically important. So you've spent a lot of your career in and around technology as part of this solution too. What role does technology play in solving this problem or helping solve this problem?
So, after spending a long time, we didn't say long time. I said long time.
I didn't put that on you. So
doing that, I mean, what's really become clear to me is that there's two things. There's digital and there's technology.
Okay.
And the way that the people function, HR, delivers things today needs to be with a digital-first mindset. So how do I deliver in a digital way? And digital's made up of 4 components: mindset, people, process, and tech.
Okay.
The technology fuels that vision, it fuels the strategy, that's the mindset. The vision and strategy are the mindset.
Sure.
The people component are, who is my workforce? Who do I want them to be? How do they work? What's the best way to reach them? My processes is what's the best way to engage or motivate them in a way that meets them where they are.
Sure.
Not takes them, makes them go somewhere else,
right.
but meets them where they are. And then once I've got that, the technology component is what fuels that.
Right.
Unfortunately, after 20-some years doing this, people continue to spend money on technology as the bullet,
right.
and say, hey, I see this shiny object in a piece of technology, let's buy it and put it in, and it'll fix my engagement problem, and it won't.
Right.
It won't without those other components.
Got it.
So, where I see technology playing the role is as the fuel to truly drive whatever my business strategy and my people strategy is forward, but it's not the answer, by itself.
Right, and that's a huge issue, because people keep deploying the technology, thinking it's the solution, which also creates a false sense of security or comfort or progress, and so the problem just gets kicked down the road.
It gets kicked down the road, and then the easiest, as I always say, the easiest person to blame when something doesn't go well is the vendor.
Right.
So, it's this vendor.
Right. Start a new cycle, go find better technology.
RFP, new technology, failure. RFP, new technology, failure, and we just are on this habit trail.
Yep.
But when really the problem's with us, it's our problem. Making sure that we frame what we want to do and then choose the right technology to do that.
Got it. So, last question for you is, if you have one kind of, if you could boil it down, and this is a big ask and an oversimplification, but for someone who's thinking, I really want to start making progress towards, moving my organization towards being more engaged, being more human organization, what would be that piece of advice what's the key kind of first step, or what's the piece of advice that you would give them as kind of a, one nugget to start with?
So for me, it's the 30-second cocktail napkin pitch as to what is our vision as an organization. So I want everyone aligned and everyone marching to the same beat as far as what's my vision. So 30 seconds, not 10 minutes, not 18 tenants, 30 seconds that everyone can do on a cocktail napkin and say, here's the problem or here's the opportunity that I actually want to solve in this specific area. And let's say it's an engagement. So I want to take this part of the workforce and get them to here. Or I want to take this type of worker and get them to here. Like I said, where we see things go wrong mostly is when organizations say, we have an engagement problem, and send the masses out to try to work on that without that true alignment and focus. And engagement is a huge word.
Yes.
It's misunderstood.
Yes.
It's got lots of different meanings.
Yes.
And people just start scattering and trying to figure it out. So a true focus and a true vision, and then a true execution plan from that, that would be to me, that's the holy grail, and that's what we see work in organizations versus let's just roll out a bunch of programs and see which one sticks.
Yep.
Usually none of them do.
So what I heard you say in that, let me make sure just that I heard this right, is that if you can't articulate the problem you're trying to solve and where you're trying to go in 30 seconds, you need to, you're still too complicated. Stop, simplify, clarify.
Yeah, don't buy anything.
Got it.
Stop, take the time to figure it out, because that combined with what's your measure of success from the start, not as you go, from the start. When are you going to say, wow, this was a success? Defining that with that 30-second component, that's what's going to drive organizations to be successful in this area.
That's great advice. Jason, thank you very much.
Thank
Appreciate
you.
your
Always
time.
great talking.
Likewise.